why don't we have the capacity or the capability to manufacture a fighter jet engines?
If a country like China, with an estimated total expenditure of $431 billion, it is unable to make a fifth generation jet engine, then certainly there are complexities.
But as far as the manufacturing is there, once you have it, the manufacturing, is it possible to achieve Aatmanirbharta at least in manufacturing, if not the sourcing?
Complete Aatmanirbharta कभी नहीं हो सकती है. वो छोटा सा एक मेटल जो हम नहीं बनाते हैं. फिफ्थ जनरेशन इज नथिंग बट कम दिखना. तो वो 1 मीटर स्क्वायर की जगह वो बन जाता है 0.001 मीटर स्क्वायर.
That is what I was saying. गोल्फ बॉल उसी को कह रहा था सर मैं.
ये देखते हुए you cannot categorize J-20 as a truly fifth generation fighter aircraft.
It's not a classically fifth generation like the F-35s. It's not.
No, even F-35 does not super cruise.
Hello friends, welcome to Gap, the Gaurav Arya Podcast. Today I have with me Air Marshal RGK Kapoor, former Air Officer Commanding in Chief, Central Air Command. Sir, Jai Hind and a very warm welcome, sir.
Jai Hind, Gaurav. It's a pleasure to be here. And thank you for having me.
No, sir. Absolutely privileged, sir. And I'll get right to the point. There have been so many questions and people ask me, why this? Why can't we make engines? Why is America holding back the F404 or 414G? And I told them that I don't know. I'll get somebody appropriate who knows the answer to all these questions. So my first question is, sir, we can send a mission to the sun, we can send a mission to the moon, and I understand these are two different things. So this is not to say that this equals to that. I'm not making that statement, but it can't be any easier or any more difficult. So why don't we have the capacity or the capability to manufacture a fighter jet engines?
So Gaurav, you asked, I think, two questions in this. Sure. One is, why is America holding back G404?
Sure.
And why can't India produce a jet engine?
Sure.
If we go some time back, today's, as you are aware, everything, any manufacturing that is done is undertaken through global supply chains. Sure. That means there are many people who are manufacturing small components to major components. And I won't say whether US is holding back G404, but with my experience, whatever I have, I can tell the audience that there are complexities, and in certain cases, it takes time to get a very small component which could be a showstopper. And so if that component is the showstopper, and because of which there is a delay in the jet engines coming to India, then it's a different issue, which I would believe would be the case rather than US holding back. Because I think there is a good understanding at the government level between India and United States on the requirement of both. Because I think as nations, we are equal partners in development and security. So that is one part. Coming to the jet engine and कि भाई jet engine और rocket engine में क्या difference है? Basic difference between a jet engine and rocket engine is, rocket में propellant होता है, उसमें moving parts इतने ज़्यादा नहीं होते हैं, वो rotate नहीं करता है. Jet engine में there are thousands of moving parts, and each of those moving parts plays a role in how the jet engine performs. Jet engine technology, nuclear technology are two kind of niche technologies. Then certain things, just the rocket engine to power a spacecraft is not everything. It is the other things which go around which are more important. So those mechanical parts become very, very important. And jet engine has many stages. The air is taken in from the compressor, then it goes through a combustion chamber where fuel and air are mixed and they are ignited, they are burnt, and then the thermal energy is produced, which then rotates the turbines. And so the temperature at the beginning of the jet engine to where the exhaust is going, there's a huge difference. Thousands of degrees of centigrade. So you have to have materials which are able to withstand this. And you have to have balance in a jet engine where the tolerances are so little that a little minor vibration can create major catastrophe. And the basic technologies, there are only basically 4 countries, if you see.
Sure.
USA, Russia, France, and UK, which have produced jet engines which are, I think, now the 5th generation jet engines. China has tried its best, but it has still not reached the 5th generation, where on its J20, it is still using WS-10C jet engine.
That's a 4th generation engine.
That's a 4th generation engine. So, if a country like China, which has invested, which has a defense budget of $231 billion,
sure,
with an estimated total expenditure of $431 billion. You imagine the amount of R&D that is going on. The facilities that they have created to design, develop, test. With that, all those things, it is unable to make a 5th generation jet engine. Then certainly there are complexities. The complexities are different types of metallurgy. That's the first thing. You need super alloys to withstand those temperatures. You need fine precision manufacturing, where even a micromillimeter tolerance is unacceptable. And if you have all these things, then the challenges are even more. With the kind of budget India has given to Kaveri, I think they did a good job to reach wherever they reach. At least they've reached 70 to 75 kilonewton thrust. Today, Kaveri is being given to Ghatak for the stealth UAV that HAL DRDO is developing.
Sure.
And so to say that we have not reached anywhere may not be absolutely correct. But to reach where we want to reach, a huge amount of investment is required in terms of not only in terms of alloys that are required, in terms of the kind of precision manufacturing that is to be done, metallurgical requirements that are there to combine all the alloys and make those blades, and finally to test it. Testing also requires a fair amount of infrastructure. And so all these, when we say, I think one thing which most of us, at least now, it's open secret,
sure,
that India missed the Industrial Revolution. Today, we've come directly to a service-oriented revolution. So our economy is more service-oriented. Today, we are looking at manufacturing. And so to bridge this gap, I think if we don't want to do the kind of investment that would be required to start and achieve and the time that we want, there is no better solution than do a collaborative approach, which is what we are looking at. So, in short, if I say that jet engine, which is going to power a fighter aircraft throughout its flight regime,
sure,
from a basic non-reheat setting to an afterburner setting, where you burn fuel in the exhaust,
sure,
and achieve a little more thrust, sure, that requires precision. It requires alloys, super alloys. It requires metallurgical ability, and finally, it requires those precision testing and certification abilities.
So you're saying it's not about one engine, you're saying it's an entire ecosystem, it's an entire environment.
Yes.
Thousands of moving parts, sir. Initially, when you started describing the jet engine, it looked pretty much like the petrol engine, because oxygen comes and there is fuel and there is a space. In my language, or in my lingo, let's call it the carburetor, where there is the air fuel mixture. And if you want the vehicle to go faster, then what you do is that you open it up a little, more oxygen comes and it burns faster. But then that was the first 5 seconds of your conversation, after which you lost me, sir. Then it went to the technical realm where you're talking about alloys, sir. You're talking about fine precision manufacturing. You're talking about getting everything together. We were also having a talk when we were talking in my room, sir, about supply chains. So you are saying that, okay, maybe this is not deliberate by the US, but also there are supply chain issues throughout the world. Is that what you're saying generally, sir?
Yeah. There are, because today, if you see jet engine, if let's say GE is making a jet engine, it is sourcing parts and components from various people, and it could be even from various countries. To give you an example, GE has its developmental lab in Bangalore.
Sir.
And so the kind of design and development is done here with the IP which is with the GE. And so there are various people, countries and manufacturing systems which are actually providing the basic source components to build the full engine. The assembly would take place in some place. And it is like a car. If you are manufacturing a car, you are sourcing components from hundreds of
OEMs, sir.
Medium and small.
Yes, sir.
Sector industries.
Sir.
And those are the people who are manufacturing it. And in that supply chain, if one component is taking a little time, then the whole thing gets. The engine overall could be ready, but there could be one small little computer which is not there, or one small little metallurgical portion which is not there.
A chip or anything. It could be anything, sir.
Absolutely.
3 saal lagenge.
Absolutely.
For example, sir.
Today's, like I was telling you, today's engines are computer controlled. What you call full authority digital engine control system. That means the pilot is asking for a particular response from the engine, and the engine throughout its envelope, there is a computer which is controlling the engine. And so, like I covered earlier, it is metallurgy. When we meet, you're sourcing metals from various countries. Aatmanirbharta is complete. Aatmanirbharta कभी नहीं हो सकती है. आप आत्मनिर्भरता की बात कर रहे हो, तो आत्मनिर्भरता मतलब हमारे पास सब कुछ आ गया तो हम बना सकते हैं उसको. वो छोटा सा एक मेटल जो हम नहीं बनाते हैं, जो एक रेयर अलॉय है जो हमारे पास नहीं है,
जो इंडिया में है ही नहीं.
इंडिया में है ही नहीं.
हो सकता लेट अस अज्यूम सर इट इज इन कजाकिस्तान सम प्लेस.
तो हमको वहां से इंपोर्ट करना पड़ेगा.
यस सर.
फिर उसको प्रोसेस करना पड़ेगा. फिर उसको मेटलर्जी में कंबाइन करना पड़ेगा. तो ये जो 4-5 तरह के मेटल हैं उसको कंबाइन करके एक अलॉय बनेगा. उस अलॉय से हम फिर उसके साथ क्वार्ट्ज क्रिस्टल ब्लेड को उस तरह से बनाएंगे जिससे कि फाइनली वो ब्लेड बनेगा. और हमने टरबाइन तक बना लिया है. अब जो हॉट एंड है, जो गर्म एंड है, जिसको हॉट एंड बोलते हैं हम, उसमें सबसे ज्यादा, क्योंकि उसमें टेम्परेचर बहुत ज्यादा हो जाता है, थाउजेंड्स ऑफ डिग्री सेल्सियस जाता है, और वो सबसे तेज रोटेट करता है. वो 10,000-15,000 आरपीएम पे रोटेट कर रहा है वो पार्ट. तो अगर ये कॉम्प्लेक्सिटी है उस इंजन की, तो उसमें प्रिसीशन की जरूरत है. और वो एलॉय हम एक तो इंपोर्ट करेंगे, फिर उस अलॉय को कंबाइन करेंगे, और फिर उसको मशीन करना है. तो वो मशीन्स भी नहीं है उतने जो जितनी प्रिसीशन चाहिए वो हमारे पास नहीं है अभी ये सब करने के लिए.
But sir, shouldn't Aatmanirbharta, I'm sorry I'm going off the script, but just for my understanding, sir, one is that we don't have certain things in our country, not in terms of technology, but the material itself, sir. For example, you need a certain kind of rare earth material. I'm just giving a very vague sort of a hypothetical example, which is available, let us say, in Congo, sir, or some other country. That's okay, sir. We don't naturally have it. But as far as the manufacturing is there, once you have it, the manufacturing, is it possible to achieve Aatmanirbharta, at least in manufacturing, if not the sourcing? That is possible, sir?
Yes, it is possible. It is possible. We just have to continue with the effort of research and development, design and development primarily. Sure. And the metallurgical solutions that we have. I think we have very bright brains in our country who can combine together. But to cut this developmental cycle short so that we can leapfrog and come somewhere near the world standards, it is always better to collaborate with somebody who already has this kind of technology.
People are saying that leapfrog nahi, ab to pole vault chahiye, sir, directly.
Pole vault वगैरह, see, ultimately you have to go through the generational change.
Yes, sir.
You can't get to the end product without going through the basic this thing. It is like crawl, walk and run.
Sure.
A child cannot be made to run.
Sure.
So you have to go through the process of evolution, because if you don't understand the process of evolution, then the further steps that you need to take.
Because the third step is essentially a betterment of the second step.
Yes.
Now, you don't know the second step,
Exactly.
you'll fall, sir.
So finally, you have to develop technologies.
Sir.
To develop technologies on your own, today you are needing help.
Sir.
The way we got help in private sector, in automobile industry.
Yes, sir.
From Ambassador and Fiat, we came to Maruti Suzuki.
Yes, sir.
That was because we collaborated with somebody.
Correct, sir. We got
When
the
you
Suzuki
collaborate,
technologies.
you will get those technologies. You'll have to pay a price.
Yes, sir.
But I think that price is not big enough that we cannot do it.
Sir, coming to that, sir, like Rafale, sir. We have two squadrons, sir. Ambala and Hashimara, we have two squadrons of Rafale and excellent aircraft. And Indians were the first foreign buyers of the Rafale, and then it really took off. And today is the toast of the world, sir. And today, if you want to buy a Rafale, for example, they're saying get in the queue. There is a 8-year waiting list or a 10-year waiting list. So that is how successful the Rafale has become, sir. Now, Rafale, to the best of my knowledge, sir, France, actually, they said that we'll transfer technology for the Safran engines. So that is something also in the pipeline. So let us say India gives, and this is again a hypothetical example, which I get a lot of these questions from our viewers, and I would like to ask, you're an expert, sir. Let us say India gives sufficient orders. Assume that India says, for example, we want to have, let's say the bureaucratic red tape is out of the way, and we say that we want 10 squadrons of Rafale. Abhi 2 na, main 10 chahiye. We'll spend the money and no, but they'll be made in India. And we want 100%, and France agrees to 100% transfer of technology because they've already said we'll give you the Safran. So it stands to reason that they'll say, okay, done. Aap 10 squadron order karo, we'll make in India, and theek hai, 1 or 2 squadrons can be made in France, rest 8 squadrons made in India, and you give us this much money and we'll transfer it. Then will we get the engine, sir?
See, engines again is a different topic. So Safran के साथ हमारी बात चल रही है.
Sir.
Safran is already collaborating with us in Shakti engines for the helicopters.
Yes, sir.
So a natural progression would be that Safran comes in a bigger way, and the cooperation only expands. So the engines will come. The engine, which is a M88 engine for Rafale.
Sir.
Is a class in which we want 110 kilonewton engine for the MCA. And उसके लिए ही ये बात चल रही है कि साफरान के साथ अगर हम कोलैबोरेट करें, साफरान will then give 100% tech transfer of technology, IP rights, because it will be a co-development and co-production. We are not going to buy an engine from them. We are not going to buy a design from them.
We're going to co-produce.
Co-develop and co-produce.
Which means we have the blueprints.
We'll have to have the blueprints, source codes.
And also the rights.
Also the rights, bilkul.
We don't have to take France's permission
exactly
to sell it to anybody.
Exactly.
All right. So now this brings me to HAL. I would like you to explain to our viewers, sir, about the HAL. A lot of people feel, and they keep on giving examples, that HAL should be a hardcore research and development organization. And the government should stop getting into production. So I often tell people that is not a call that, that is a call that the government has to make. So we cannot say anything about it. But prima facie, how does this sound to you, sir? That you have all these centers of excellence with great brains, actually. So these people are scientists and engineers. They get into research and development, and the private sector makes it because somebody is designing the Tejas. It's not HAL, sir. And I would like you to dwell on that, sir, that who's designing the Tejas? They are manufacturing it, sir. And also, what do we need to get this aircraft ecosystem up and running? So I'm asking two questions. So one, HAL, designing, etc. And also, private companies spending on research and development. So these are two questions.
So, HAL incidentally was a private industry when it was established.
Long back.
60s, around the independence time.
Acha.
In the 50s.
In the 50s, sir.
Yeah. So, I think it was Walchand, Hirachand, who along with another company, they made a joint venture.
HAL was a private company.
It was a private company. And from that time, in about late 50s to early 60s, government acquired HAL and it became a public sector undertaking.
Like Air India, sir.
Like Air India. Like other public sector banks which were established. Some private banks nationalized kar diya usko.
Sir.
It was, and in fact, HAL at the beginning of its existence was developing aircraft. It developed HT2, the first trainer of Indian Air Force after independence, was designed and developed by HL. The engine was obviously imported. Even today, the engine is imported. Then we developed Marut. Marut was a fantastic platform. Very, very good platform. But again, it failed because we did not have a suitable engine. It was underpowered, and so we had to shelve the project. And then, obviously, HL diversified, and because HL in the meantime got a lot of work because of license production of the MiG-21, the MiG-23, the MiG-27, and then the Su-30.
So, but all because it's government control, sir.
Absolutely.
So Air Force has to buy it from HL. No, where is the Air Force going to buy it from?
It is because, see, till recently, we did not have any private sector aerospace.
Yes, sir.
It is only recently that the aerospace industry has been open to private sector.
5-7 years, sir.
Yeah. So last 3-4 years, I would say.
Sir.
4 to 5 years. And so we have seen a development of aerospace industry. And we saw Tata's once the offset started of Apaches. Tata's started making. C-130 empennage is made by Tata. But those are different things. That's not design and development. It is manufactured to a design by the private industry. So HL primarily did the initial design and development, and when it was unable to, it was started into license manufacturing. DRDO Aircraft Development Agency was set up to start looking at fighter aircraft design and development. And that is how Tejas came.
ADA, sir.
ADA. So ADA is the design and development agency of Tejas.
And HL is the manufacturer.
HL manufactures it to the design given by ADA.
By ADA, sir.
So HL is primarily a manufacturer, and everything else is given by ADA to DRDO to the HL, and IF is the user. Now with the private industry which is coming up, now Tatas have set up C295 manufacturing plant, and they are already manufacturing. Prime Minister recently inaugurated last year.
Yes, sir. In Gujarat, sir. Yes, sir.
In Gujarat, in Vadodara.
Sir.
And once again, C295, what it does is, we are still making it to a design. We are still not into design and development. We are not designing ourselves.
We are not designing, sir.
But it sets up an ecosystem where there is a lot of manufacturing being done of various components. So there is a certain amount of indigenization of those components which is happening in India.
And then, smaller players, sir, we need this kind of wire, we need this kind of chip.
Yes.
So there are hundreds of companies which would have come up, sir. Yes. Which is again good, sir.
Which is happening.
Yes, sir.
Which is happening, and which is a good thing.
Absolutely, sir. One question before I move on to the next, sir. And do you see HL? Now, this is just, and you can choose to absolutely ignore this, sir. I understand. Do you see HL going the way of Air India one day, where the government says that, boss, we like you a lot, but let's stick to R&D, and HAL becomes, or the manufacturing capabilities of HAL, or their entire systems and their land and their whatever IPs they have or whatever they have developed over the period of time, and the entire order book, etc., is given to a private player, and you move out people and say that ADA is the thing which is going to be controlled by the government, and we want a private sector. Because if you look at the US, sir, they're making aircraft carrier. Private companies are making aircraft carriers, sir. And that's all right. They're making it, sir. Lockheed Martin is a private company, sir. Boeing is a private company. Dassault Aviation is a private company. So these are not government organizations, and they're making the best aircraft in the world. Why not privatization? I'm not saying HAL, sir. I'm just saying, why not privatization?
I also feel that privatization is the way to go. You cannot have a single player or a monopoly in any system. For any system or any ecosystem to evolve, competition is very, very important. And today there is no competition. HAL holds a monopoly on aircraft production. So it is very important that we encourage the private sector. When we talk about US invested heavily into research and development in these private industries. They by themselves did not come up. They had lot of, and if you see most of these industries, if you see Boeing, for instance,
sure.
Boeing has a commercial arm and a defense arm and a space arm. So it is doing diverse business in aerospace domain.
Sure.
And when it does business in aerospace domain, it is making money. When it makes money, it has money to invest into R&D.
Correct, sir.
Today, the private sector in India is in the process of evolution. It is just starting. It is infancy. So, if the private sector is in infancy, it needs to be helped, and hand-holded. So, I think it is the job of the government to do certain hand-holding, build up their basic capabilities. It is like government declared approved 1,000 crore joint or venture capital for the space industry. While ISRO is still there, which is a government-owned organization.
Yes, sir.
So how is this venture capital helping space? It is helping in terms of satellite manufacture. It is helping in terms of low cost of small rockets, which will put your satellites into lower Earth orbit for your ISR requirements. Who needs it? Finally, it is the national requirement. And so if aerospace is the national requirement, the government must, I would believe, at least 1,000 to 2,000 crore rupees.
But then for fighter development, that is peanuts, sir.
No. It is not a question of fighter development. It's a question of, there are a lot of technologies we already have. If you see ADA,
sir,
ADA has mastered a lot of technology. Exceptional work on aircraft structures, exceptional work on, fly-by-wire systems, exceptional work on control laws, exceptional work on basic hydraulics and undercarriage systems and other control surfaces. So, it is not very many things that we today need. You see, DRDO is doing exceptional work on now radar development.
Yes, sir.
So, in a year or so, if let me be very optimistic, in a year or so, we should see a good radar for LCA, and we should see a good radar for Su-30 upgrade. And if we are able to do all this, then our research has to be very, very focused and specific into the domains that we are lacking in. Whether it is electronic warfare systems, to which also we have reached certain level. And then we can reduce the level of reliance only on these PSUs and others, and let the private industry come up. So the private industry will offer you an alternative to manufacturing. It will offer you an cost-effective and more efficient way than HL, which is mostly delayed aircraft production and deadlines, for whatever be the reason. But the fact is, at the end of it, the capability is not delivered to the warfighter.
And your squadron strength is dropping, sir.
Yes. So, towards that, we need to identify what are the core capabilities or technologies that we are missing on.
Sir.
And just focus on that with this venture capital, so that we can actually reach a full condition of manufacturing a full aircraft.
So, you mentioned about the Kaveri, sir, and you said, I think, Kaveri for Ghatak, sir, the UAVs, sir. So, what kind of a thrust is required for a fighter aircraft, and can the Kaveri be developed over a period of years to actually power a fighter aircraft, even if it's a single engine fighter aircraft? Is that possible, sir?
Yes.
It's meant for that only, basically, sir.
Yes.
Originally.
When Kaveri was started way back, I think in early 80s, Kaveri project was started.
Yes,
government funded it to a large extent. And when we could not go beyond the cold stage, or so the hot stage, that is the reheat part of it.
Sure.
And the thrust was limited to about 70 to 75 kilonewtons. We realized that it cannot power a fighter aircraft. Because for fighter aircraft, you have to go almost to about 95 to 100 kilonewton. And today the requirement is about 110 kilonewton. So if, when you talk about actually fifth generation, you talk about 2-3 things. That is, fifth generation is nothing but कम दिखना. एक एयरक्राफ्ट में क्या क्या होता है? एक उसका रेडार ऑन करते हैं, दूसरा वो कैसे देख सकता है, एक तो रेडार से देख सकता है, एक अपने ऑप्टिकल सेंसर से देख सकता है, और एयरक्राफ्ट को कैसे देखा जा सकता है? एयरक्राफ्ट को एक रेडार देख सकता है, क्योंकि एयरक्राफ्ट इंजन एक हीट प्रोड्यूस कर रहा है, तो उसको कोई भी IR सेंसर होगा वो देख सकता है। एयरक्राफ्ट में जेट इंजन है तो आवाज करता है, तो कितनी कम आवाज करता है। तो बेसिकली स्टेल्थ इज नथिंग बट लो ऑब्जर्वेबल, कम दिखना। कितना कम उस जहाज को कोई देख सकता है। अगर आप आंखों से देख रहे हो तो कम दिखना नहीं चाहिए, अगर आप कानों से सुन रहे हो तो कम सुनना चाहिए। दैट मीन्स वो जहाज आपको तब पता चलेगा वो इतनी पास है कि अब आप उसके अगेंस्ट कुछ नहीं कर सकते। वो बेसिकली स्टेल्थ।
इट बाइज टाइम आल्सो।
इट बाइज टाइम। Primarily, it gives the enemy lesser time to react.
When the Israelis bombed Iran recently, sir, they bombed a couple of their military facilities inside Iran. I believe they did it with the F-35, and the Iranian radars had no clue, sir, where this F-35, because they say that while the aircraft is very big and it weighs tons and tons, but the fact of the matter is on the radar it looks like a small golf ball, sir. Oh, that is what people say, that it looks like a golf ball.
It is not a question of looking like a small golf ball. The aircraft looks the same.
I mean, in the sense the size becomes smaller.
It is how far you pick it up.
Oh, it will look the same, sir.
Yeah.
I don't know where this golf ball analogy came from, but I really liked it. Because now I'll stop saying golf balls.
So it is how early you pick up. The signature, see, today in a raw video and a kind of processed, what you call synthetic.
Sure.
It is, the whole thing is processed. It is what you see as a speck on a radar screen.
Sure.
So you will see it much farther in a जो बोलते हैं ना radar cross section.
Yes, sir.
कोई बोलता है 1 मीटर स्क्वायर, कोई बोलता है 10 मीटर स्क्वायर। तो वो इतनी बड़ी प्लेट अगर हम दिखाएं अगर रेडार को, तो कितनी दूरी पे वो दिखाई देगी, वो एनालॉजी है।
नहीं सर, और कितनी दिखाई देगी ये एनालॉजी नहीं है सर।
उतनी दिखाई देगी, कितनी दूर दिखाई देगी, कितनी बड़ी दिखाई देगी, वो प्रोसेसिंग में आ जाता है। अगर आप सोचेंगे कि जैसे ये भी बात है कि अगर दो जहाज, उसका वो रिजोल्यूशन बोलते हैं कि दो अगर ऑब्जेक्ट हैं कितनी दूर हैं, वो एक जैसे एक बन जाते हैं या दो बनते हैं। तो वो रडार में वैसा है, वो उतना ही बड़ा होगा। लेकिन अगर वो रेडार का रेजोल्यूशन पावर बेटर है तो वो दूर पे दो जहाजों को डिफरेंटली देखेगा। तो ऐसा नहीं है कि इतना, अगर एक बोइंग 747 आ रहा है तो एक फुटबॉल बॉल की तरह पूरी रेडार स्क्रीन कवर हो जाएगी, ऐसा नहीं होता है। ऐसा नहीं।
So essentially what you're saying is that an F-35 will come, for example F-35, so we are just giving an example, F-35 आएगा, stealth capability उसमें है, it is when you know that there is an F-35.
Correct.
But when it shows up on the radar and when you finally realize it's going to be an F-35 only, sir.
Yes.
Okay. So and this thing about reduction in the size of the signature and all that does not happen, sir.
It happens. See, it is the signature of the aircraft which is reduced. Because
that's what I was trying to understand, sir.
Correct.
जी।
हम क्या करते हैं, इसको अगर बहुत ही लेमैन की तरह से देखें कि हम 1 मीटर स्क्वायर की एक प्लेट ले लेते हैं
जी,
और यहां पर हमारा रेडार है। ये प्लेट हम यहां से ला रहे हैं तो ये रेडार की एनर्जी है, इस प्लेट को लग के वापस आ रही है सर। अब ये जो F-35 है, जो एक लेटर से पुराना एयरक्राफ्ट लगा लो आप, MiG-19, MiG-21 वगैरह, वो 1 मीटर स्क्वायर की प्लेट जैसा है
सर।
अब अगर उसकी जगह अगर आप एक F-35 को लेते हो
सर,
तो वो 1 मीटर स्क्वायर की जगह वो बन जाता है 0.001 मीटर स्क्वायर।
दैट इज व्हाट आई वाज सेइंग, गोल्फ बॉल, उसी को कह रहा था सर मैं, इन माय ओन स्टाइल ऑफ टॉकिंग।
तो वो है डिफरेंस।
हाँ, वही मैं कह रहा था कि द ओवरऑल सिग्नेचर
जो पहले फुटबॉल लगती थी,
हाँ जी सर,
फुटबॉल की साइज था,
हाँ,
वो अब गोल्फ बॉल
लगती है सर। अच्छा, सो दैट इज,
ये एनालॉजी है।
ये एनालॉजी
जो रेडार के ऊपर दिखता है वो नहीं है
सर।
The analogy is of the size that you pick up at that same distance.
Acha, sir. Right, sir. Now, one more thing which I'd like to ask you, sir. You said that Kaveri, you said, sir,
70 to 75 kilonewtons.
70 to 75 kilonewtons, sir. Now, again, a layman, this thing, because I'm not a technical person and have absolutely nothing about the Indian Air Force, sir, that I know, but let's say you have 2 engines simultaneously, 75, sir. How does that work, sir? See, does that power a jet enough to take off and land and fly, sir?
See, it is not a question of, the basic problem with Kaveri is not only the thrust it produces. It is not got reheat.
Okay.
So a fighter aircraft to take off mostly uses reheat because it has to overcome the basic gravity and build up speed and a certain. ऐसे तो आप 75 किलो न्यूटन लगाओगे तो रनवे लेंथ कितनी लंबी चाहिए होगी, फिर भी एयरक्राफ्ट नहीं टेक ऑफ होगा. तो बेसिकली कावेरी का प्रॉब्लम है उसका हॉट सेक्शन नहीं है. फाइटर के लिए आपको एक रीहीट की जरूरत होती है
और उतना थ्रस्ट
चाहिए जो वो प्रोड्यूस कर सके इंजन. अब ये इंजन प्रोड्यूस ही नहीं कर सकता उस थ्रस्ट को, और आप 2 इंजन लगाओगे तो उसका ड्रैग भी बढ़ेगा और उसके बाकी चीजें जो उसके अदर प्रॉब्लम्स आर देयर, एसोसिएटेड इश्यूज, दोज विल आल्सो बी देयर बिकॉज इंजन is also powering your other systems.
It's not 2 + 2 = 4.
It is not 2 + 2 = 4.
Slightly more complicated than that.
It is more complicated than that. And so, अब जो हम stealth UAV बना रहे हैं,
sir,
उसको उस स्पीड की जरूरत नहीं है. जैसे हम बोलते हैं हमको Mark 2 जाना है,
sir,
2 times the speed of sound जाना है.
It does not require that.
It does not require.
It doesn't even require Mark 1, sir.
Correct. So वो subsonic का रहेगा. मतलब speed of sound से कम पे fly करेगा.
प्लस ऑल्सो पावर टू वेट रेशियो. सर
करेक्ट. तो उस रेशियो के लिए जो ये इंजन है ये ठीक है.
ये ठीक है सर.
तो एटलीस्ट इसको हम यूज कर पाएंगे.
हमने 80 से डेवलप करना है.
वरना हमें फिर जब हमारे पास कैपेबिलिटी है तो हम उसको इंडिजिनसली क्यों नहीं यूज करें. वी शुड यूज इट because we have spent thousands of crores of rupees to develop this engine.
Sir.
Having developed the engine and having all the IP rights and having all the production lines which we can develop, it is true Aatmanirbharta. Then at least for that stealth UAV Ghatak, which does not require a supersonic run and does not require a reheat, it is the best solution.
Sir, I wanted to ask you, sir, and I'll just ask you 1 or 2 questions and then we'll wrap up the podcast. You said that the J-20, which is a 5th generation fighter jet, also deployed in Tibet, sir. Just across the line of actual control, 150 किलोमीटर दूर उन्होंने बेस अपना बना रखा है LAC से. If it uses a 4th generation jet engine, which you said it does, and this I have read that also, sir, is it truly 5th generation in all its capacities?
तो जैसे
J-20 सर.
हाँ, तो बेसिकली ट्रूली 5th जनरेशन का क्या होता है. ट्रूली 5th जनरेशन में 2-3 चीजें होती हैं. वन इज लो ऑब्जर्वेबल.
यस सर.
दूसरा इज सेंसर फ्यूजन. दैट मीन्स जितने भी सेंसर हैं आपके वो फ्यूज हो जाते हैं. एंड दैट एयरक्राफ्ट इज अ सिस्टम ऑफ सिस्टम्स. इट इज नाउ नेटवर्क्ड टू ऑल योर कमांड एंड कंट्रोल. इट कैन एक्ट एज कमांड एंड कंट्रोल पोस्ट ऑल्सो. दैट मीन्स इट कैन गाइड अदर्स. जो हम आजकल मैन्ड अनमैन्ड टीमिंग की बात करते हैं, लॉयल विंगमैन कॉन्सेप्ट हो, मैन्ड अनमैन्ड टीमिंग हो, तो उसमें इसकी कैपेबिलिटी होनी चाहिए. और लास्टली उसमें सुपर क्रूज होना चाहिए. सुपर क्रूज का मतलब यह है कि मुझे इंजन को रीहीट में नहीं चलाना है और मैं सुपरसोनिक फ्लाई करता रहूंगा मोर देन स्पीड ऑफ साउंड. तो J-20 में अगर आप देखें स्टेल्थ, दैट मीन्स लो ऑब्जर्वेबिलिटी, टू अ लार्ज एक्सटेंट इट इज देयर. बट आई डू नॉट से बिकॉज उसमें 2D नोजल्स नहीं है. इंजन में 2D नोजल होनी चाहिए. दैट मीन्स इट शुड बी थ्रस्ट वेक्टरिंग वगैरह होनी चाहिए. वो नहीं है उसमें. तो इसलिए ट्रू 5th जनरेशन नहीं कहा जाएगा J-20 को. और दूसरी बात यह है कि J-20 में कैनार्ड्स हैं, जो उसके आगे आपने 2 छोटे विंग्स, मूवेबल विंग्स देखे. वो जो कैनार्ड्स हैं जब वो मूव करेंगे तब वो रेडार रिफ्लेक्शन करेंगे, तो उसका RCS बढ़ जाता है. तो और किसी एस्पेक्ट में उसका RCS ज्यादा है. तो अगर आप देखें बिकॉज ऑफ इंजन एंड उसके अंदर क्या है, कितना सेंसर फ्यूजन है या नहीं है. अगर हम चाइनीज को पूरा वो we grant it to the Chinese that they have this capability of sensor fusion because their other avionics and electronic industry is fairly well advanced. But the engine is the biggest issue. तो सुपर क्रूज नहीं कर सकता. और उसका ये जो IR सिग्नेचर है अभी भी काफी. तो ये देखते हुए you cannot categorize J-20 as a truly 5th generation fighter aircraft.
Partially 5th, sir.
Partially, yes.
They have the paint and
everything will be there.
They have the absorbing capabilities
yes.
and deflection and all of that. But It's not a classically fifth generation like the F-35, sir. It's not.
No, even F-35 does not supercruise. Even F-35
Sir.
does not supercruise without reheat. So if you see truly fifth generation where everything is met is F-22.
But they've stopped making the F-22, sir.
They've stopped
the
making
Raptor, sir.
Yeah, the Raptor. Because it is so expensive.
Yes, sir. They've stopped making it, sir.
Which is going to be now their next generation air dominance fighter, which is their sixth generation platform.
Sir.
Is likely to be the one which is going to replace the F-22. And that is going to be the F-35 will be loyal wingman to the NGAD.
So you get the pilot out of the F-35, sir.
No, pilot will never come out of F-35. Pilot will remain in F-35. But F-35 will be like a more ammunition to the
controlled by this let's say the motherships.
Some of them.
Let's call it the mothership.
Some of them.
Yes, sir. My last question to you, sir. We have fifth generation, sixth generation, all of that we have discussed, engines and all that. What is happening to India's fifth generation fighter aircraft programs, sir? Because AMCA के बारे में हम लोग बात करते हैं, 1500 करोड़ सरकार ने दिए थे, which is honestly speaking peanuts, sir, for a fifth generation. They won't even know where it went. So 1,500 crores, nothing, sir. They should have given $1 or $2 billion that be comfortable and now do it. People are saying that they will take 4 to 6 years to get the Indian Air Force. And please correct me, sir, if I'm wrong, but this is my understanding of the project, that they'll take 4 to 6 years or 4 to 5 years to get a prototype to the Indian Air Force. Now, the Indian Air Force is going to see that prototype and say that, okay, I don't like this, I like this, change this. That's going to happen, sir. And the Indian Air Force, being the Indian Air Force, they're going to be rigorous. They're going to take it down and say, boss, ये हमें नहीं पसंद है, ये पसंद है, इसको ऐसे करो, अपनी जो capabilities उनको चाहिए for war fighting purposes. My question here is, sir, that is it not easier? क्योंकि 4-5 साल आपके इसमें निकल गए, sir. Or the Chinese are working overtime. Today they don't have an engine, maybe tomorrow they will, sir, the way they are working and the kind of money that they're spending. So, और फिर उसके बाद 10 साल आपको लगने हैं, सर, अपने 5th generation का fighter aircraft अगर निकलता है, if the Air Force because finally, sir, the Indian Air Force has to greenlight the project and say that, okay, now we are good, go. उसके बिना तो नहीं होगा. And given our track record of production of aircrafts earlier, and also the engine for that, sir. अब तो engine Tejas का नहीं है. There is no guarantee कि उसमें भी supply lines का issue है. So my question here is simple, sir. Would it not be prudent, seeing that we have a two-front threat directly, with Pakistan also trying to buy something of that nature of 5th generation fighter aircraft from China, which we've been hearing in the media, would it not be prudent to buy a couple of squadrons of 5th generation fighter aircraft or that capability off the shelf and say that, okay, you do your development, but seeing the previous track record, we can't endlessly wait, sir. Because squadron strength is depleting and all of that. Is it possible we buy something off the shelf or no? You're saying no, nahi hona chahiye.
First, I'll just AMCA के लिए the government has given 15,000 crores, which is equal to $1.8 billion. Now, I'll just give a small little comparison. F-22 took $30 billion for design and development. F-35 took $40 billion for design and development. But interestingly, the 6th generation fighter that the US wants to produce.
Sure.
You know how much money they have earmarked initially? $1.66 billion.
1.66?
Yes. So, I won't say that the government of India has given less. And if you see the Tejas ka developmental cost is just about $1.2 to $1.5 billion. So, actually, you know, sometimes these figures actually mislead us. It is not the initial part of the budget. It is the surety that the budget will not be constrained for the development, which is more important. And secondly, the timelines. It took almost 20 years for the F-35 development. When Americans had the experience of developing and producing F-22. The 6th generation was sanctioned in 2014.
Okay, sir.
It started in 2014. Today is 2024. First prototype flew in 2022. Nobody knows about it. Very little publicity was given, unlike China.
8 years later.
9 years later.
8-9 years later.
So if you see the track record of other countries, the J20 took 11 years. 9 to 11 years. That is when they had, delved into complete cyber espionage. They had got the blueprints of the F-35 and F-22.
They were spying on Lockheed Martin.
Yes. So with that kind, and with the kind of the close control the government or the CCP exercises on the aviation industry.
Yes, sir.
They got it in 11 years. AMCA is supposed to fly in around 2030 and productionize in 2035. That means we are 11 years from now or 10 years now. 10 years from now. With absolutely no experience of a 5th generation fighter. With all stealth technologies and critical technologies. And most importantly, is integration of these technologies. When you get diverse technologies, the biggest risk is integration. In fact, I recently read an article on the 6th generation fighter that the British, Italians and Japanese are making.
Sure.
There again, they started about 4 years back. They have said it will be extremely difficult to meet the deadline of 2035. Because they have to learn from the mistakes of Typhoon, which was made 20 years back. So, if the nations with such developed aerospace industry are saying that the risks are so high and that we are going to take so much time, I think we must look at those risks and factor those risks in. I am very sure that Air Force would be completely integrated into AMCA development. So as we go along, there is an organization called Aircraft Development Establishment and the National Flight Test Center, which is again with the DRDO but manned by mostly Indian Air Force pilots, test pilots and all. So I'm sure Air Force would be integrated into this development of AMCA.
Sure.
But the timelines are really, really optimistic. So the two things that are required are, one is surety that the budget would continue to flow in.
So,
second,
that is the easiest part, sir.
Second,
I'm sure the government decide.
Yeah.
Yes.
Second, we must be very clear about the technologies that we don't have and we are reliant on others. Third is the engine part of it. How quickly the GE 414 gets in, how quickly we are able to finalize an agreement with whichever engine manufacturer in the world to co-develop and co-produce the engine for AMCA.
Sure.
And lastly, we must, I think it is a personal opinion, we must get a 5th generation, at least 2 to 3 squadrons of 5th generation aircraft, fighter aircraft, which will help the entire ecosystem absorb the technologies, be able to learn from it and be able to actually use it when it actually is available.
Slightly confusing, sir, because F414 we are using for Mark II also LCA.
Yes.
So it's essentially a 4th generation engine, sir.
No. It is, it's a 4th generation engine, but it will be able to power the phase 1 of AMCA. AMCA is going to be a 2-engine aircraft. So twin engine, almost 100 Newton thrust, it should be able to power it with a good reheat and all. So it is like the J20 with 2 engines. It will be phase 1. It may not be complete stealth, but it will be 5th generation.
It will be 5th generation. Complete stealth, even F-35 you said.
Yes.
It has its own
like Super Cruise and other things.
Yes, it doesn't.
May be a little difficult, but otherwise it should be.
But you're saying
what we need to keep in mind is that like the LCA weight kept increasing, this is something that is going to be very critical. So those are the factors, the risks that are associated with developing such a complex system are many. And those risks, if we have not factored in, and then we'll have to, then that could become a showstopper.
Sure.
And then we may have to compromise on a little lower quality.
Sure.
So I would believe that two paths to realizing a good 5th generation AMCA would be that we quickly go in for MRFA, which will have the technologies which are, to tell you, there are almost 60 to 80% components which are common between F-16 and F-35.
यही लॉकहीड मार्टिन वाले कह रहे हैं सर कि F-21 में जो डलेगा there is a commonality. F-21 is that.
So there is commonality, and so I'm sure DRDO and HAL would be thinking on these lines for LCA Mark II and AMCA.
Sir.
Those commonalities would be built up. That will build up a good ecosystem. The lessons we learned from LCA Mark II, which is still going on,
yes, sir,
would get factored into AMCA. But there are certain critical technologies which we still don't have, will come with the MRFA. And when you have this transfer of technology, you will find that your ecosystem will be able to absorb them as you go around developing the AMCA.
Sure. Thank you very much, sir, for talking to us. And ladies and gentlemen, we spoke to Marshal Kapoor, and the entire thing, it's very rare to have such a detailed conversation on a topic, that too within 40, 45, 50 minutes. And, my team and I, we thank him. So thank you for enlightening us, sir. And it was indeed a privilege to host you. And I learned so much today, sir. And thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for watching this program. If you like this program, press the like button and subscribe to our channel. Jai Hind.